What is up, maniacs? Welcome and happy Tuesday to WMMAnia. This is episode 38. I am your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts when it comes to the women specifically. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this episode. We have, obviously, UFC 281 to recap. What an event. Maybe the event of the year. Crazy stuff from top to bottom. All the performances so good that you forget about some of the first ones, like Carlos Olberg. So, I mean, that's how deep we were with that event. We'll be recapping the victory from Deep 110 Impact as well. A slight bit of news, not so much. I mean, we already knew about it. Invicta FC 50 to preview this week. Invicta's back. They're in Colorado on Wednesday. Tomorrow, UFC Vegas 65 is this weekend as well. So yeah, that is what we got going on today. Feel free to get your questions, comments, concerns out of the way. As always, we're going to try and keep this to an hour show today because I will be traveling to Chicago in a matter of hours. So I got to make sure that I can get on the plane and all of that. So we are not going to go overtime today, even though there is a good amount to talk about in a condensed portion. It's not as crazy of a lineup as we had, last week or whenever it was. So, yeah, exciting stuff. Don't forget, you guys, you can visit WMMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. And do not forget to follow us, like, share, and subscribe on all the platforms so you don't miss a thing. And it helps you hit that notification bell, too, so you know exactly when we're going live. If it's at an earlier time like today, which is, I just have mentioned why we're earlier, because I got places to be. So we got to get this out of the way a little bit sooner than our normal 12 p.m. Pacific time mark. But we're still on Tuesday, so how about that? Good to be here on the normal day because we've been fluctuating a bit, but this is what we got to work with. Crazy times these days. So how is everybody doing? My goodness. Sammy is here. Says, what a nice surprise. That way they got cheered in the U.S. Finally, people are seeing her for the fighter she is. I think it also could be, I mean, hopefully that's the reason rather than a matchup situation, you know, and them liking her more than the opponent. And I just got rid of one of the tabs that I needed open. So that's just wonderful. I got rid of the wrong thing. So let me adjust this really quickly. Off to a great start. Not a technical difficulty, but more of a mental lapse, you could say, on my part. So let me pull this up real quick. Sorry, guys. As I continue, as James says, hashtag Whaley 2022 champion. Keep doubting haters. All right. Jimmy says, Team Magnum thick and thin, win or lose. The only fighter that makes 150 cool is Zhang Wei. Oh, the hater said she can't wrestle. Get off her back. Proved everyone wrong. We will obviously get into all of this here, and that is actually the tab I screwed up. So just about to pull it. Sorry, multitasking. All right. Alvin says, greetings, chat. I hope we all enjoyed the phenomenal event that was UFC 281. Definitely was. But as we celebrate the victories, let's also remember that the defeated also need to be recognized for their hard work. Certainly. Barton Spackle Crisp is here. Good day. Good day to you as well, as is Spart. Very nice to see you. Gosa shouts to Carlos Olberg, came with somebody by hooking off the jab, the G code for 205, since all of them reach for jabs, leaving the right side open. Yeah, I mean, I completely, by the end of the night, you completely forget that incredible performance opened up the show. So UFC 281, I mean, that it was probably event of the year. I think it might have stole things from 275, UFC London. Were kind of the candidates there. I think UFC 275 obviously had the best fight, one of the best fights of the year with the main event, Jury and Glover, but 281 was insanity. Jin says, what a great day to be a Zhang fan. The belt is back where it belongs, and no one can argue that. Rue, we stuck with our Whaley fan, and when she lost to Rose twice and saw her disrespect, it's great to be loyal. Great to be loyal to a fighter. Yes, it can certainly. I mean, hey, it doesn't always pay off, but indeed. Cintra says, we saw Whaley steamrolled Carla easy and had her own game. Karen had to come here with notifications and listen to your opinion on Zhang Whaley's performance. Could she be front runner for fighter of the year? We're going to get into all this here momentarily. Rain says to Dan Thomas, being the bomb, the ghost who likes to boast, the Drake Riggs of interviewing basketball bigs. Okay, all right. Good stuff, Rain. You are really, really knocking it out of the park lately with these. James says UFC 75 and 281 has one thing in common, Jane Wiley. Yes, that is true. So yes, memorable times. But all right, let's just get right into it, since obviously that is the biggest bit of happenings that happened over the weekend. Was Zhang Li defeating Carla Esparza via second round submission. I put rear naked choke right there, but I should say, like, I thought I put modified, because obviously it wasn't a typical rear naked choke. That's going to bother my OCD. Let me put modified, because it was like obviously a half crucifix from behind. I don't know what the official term is for that kind of position. We've seen it before. I think Mackenzie Dern hit the same thing on Montana De La Rosa in LFA back in the day when she was coming up. So we have seen this before. Very rare, very rare. But anyway, Wei Li gets the belt back, defeats Carla in the second round, and didn't really have too much trouble whatsoever, as expected. So this fight, I mean, it went, I think overall, it went about as most everybody expected. But at the same time, I will say that I think Carla also did better than people expected. She didn't do very good at all, right? But she definitely did a lot. She had moments, like one moment maybe, but still nobody mostly gave her any shots. So I think that was kind of good to see, as somebody pointed out in the comments there. I don't remember who it was. Sorry, we ran through a bunch of them there, but it was good to see maybe Wei Li get taken down, at least, because that did happen. And, of course, haters and doubters, detractors, whatever, they'll nitpick and say, oh, she still got taken down. But again, we knew Carla can do that to anybody and was probably going to do that mostly. And it was also good to see, as we talked about last week, Wei Li doing the right thing, defending rather, the way she defended the takedowns when they did come, and sitting and kind of getting onto Carla's back rather than trying to do that kind of just run out and escape. Which, again, as I said last week, I didn't expect her to do that, but I said that would have possibly been a problem. So she did all the right things there, clearly. I was also surprised how long it took Carla to shoot, though. She took her time on the feet for like the first half of the first round. I want to say, I mean, maybe even a little bit longer than that before she finally decided to go for it. I don't know if I would have thought it would have been instant, but I would have thought it happened quicker than that. But no, she took her time. Seemed comfortable on the feet. Didn't eat any massive shots in this fight. Some good body kicks from Wei Li. And she definitely worked the inside leg kicks all day. So I know Ghost just probably loved the hell out of this performance from top to bottom for Wei Li. And I mean, hard not to. But yeah, really the only bad or worrisome moment she had was at the end of the first round when she was on bottom when Carla reversed her. That was a very fun scramble. Good sequence there of grappling from both in the end of the first round. And then in the second round, she just got completely tied up in a similar position, that reverse crucifix, you call it. What the old Gary Goodridge position from back in the day, if we remember, the nastiest elbow knockout of all time, maybe, at least in terms of ground and pound, the violence that Gary Goodridge gave us back in the day. Wei Li caught her in the first round defending, and then caught her again in the second. And that time, that was a wrap. 65 seconds into the second round, geez. And then locked up the neck. Kind of got it. She got one arm around her neck before actually sinking it in, to get the tap. But yeah, Carla was stuck there with just one arm to defend. So that was kind of just how that was going to go. But yeah, she looked very good, obviously. As Makoto says, I've seen from a lot of MMA YouTube that Carla just gave up and is still a better wrestler than Wei Li. Will she ever get the respect she deserves? That's kind of silly indeed. I mean, she very clearly got caught in there. JB says he saw people were saying that if Carla had a better camp and had come prepared, she would have beaten Zhang easy. Like, I don't know where you guys see this stuff again. Like, I don't know if you go out of your way for it and everything, but these are insane takes that do not find their way to me naturally. Like, I've seen nothing even remotely similar to that from anybody. Even the people I know that don't like Whaley that maybe I follow or whatever on Twitter and stuff, which is pretty much the only place I look at is Twitter. Even they haven't said crazy stuff like what you guys are throwing at me here. But Rue says, Ghost mentioned for Dern to use caught body kicks as a way to create grappling exchanges. Is that a future strategic idea for Dern or Ortega, or is it just is Whaley just too athletic to get her body kick caught and take the back? No, it's possible for anybody. Now, obviously, a lot of timing, practice, all that good stuff. But no, Dern and Ortega, I mean, of course they can do these things. It's just a matter of implementing it and understanding all that kind of stuff. And, when you're already this late, though, it can be a little bit more difficult, of course. But what was a question we had here from Karen earlier? Said, could she be front runner for fighter of the year? Absolutely. So, I mean, I think we talked about this when Jillian was on the show, right? Because Jillian, I think, is a candidate. If you were to do the nominees for female fighter of the year right now, I think Jillian is still up there. So you have, your handful of people you'd list as potential fighters of the year. So Jillian, I think it's pretty clear, like Jillian, Whaley, and then the winner of Saeki Zawa and Siwoo Park, the rematch at New Year's Eve. I don't think there's anybody else that really makes sense there. It's very much those top three. Like Valentina's only fought once, right? And she arguably lost in some people's minds. Either way, if you thought she won, it wasn't like a crazy performance, and still just one fight. Nunes, just one fight. It's very clearly just like three people right now, three possibilities, two people, three possibilities, because Saka and Siwoo Park, obviously. I think, yeah, no matter what, who wins there. If Siwoo Park wins, I mean, she probably steals it, right? Like that's it's gonna be. I can't wait for that fight. It's gonna be crazy to see how things kind of shake out here. But I think it's definitely those three. So sorry, Jillian. I don't know. You might have lost the case to be it at this point, but you're still nominated for sure. Definitely a candidate for fighter of the year. You've earned the spot to be mentioned. That's undeniable. But the atomweights, it's been a good year for the atomweights, obviously. Was there another question here? No, I think that was kind of the only one about kind of that stuff. Let's see. Jin says, do I know who Johnny Eblin is? Yes, Bellator middleweight champion. He was impressed by her wrestling. Johnny Eblin is a very good wrestler and, managed to win the title from Musashi specifically because of his wrestling. Makoto mentioning somebody. I mean, I very don't know that person too much, but Go says I mentioned the body kick to initiate grappling exchanges, but not really for Whaley. Whaley is good at taking back. She has a hard time finishing from there. Yes. Karen says, but hasn't Whaley finished better competition than anyone else you just mentioned? So that was an argument that I made for performance of the night for sure. Because Erin Blanchfield, who we're about to talk about, absolutely got hosed for fight performance bonus. Like she had probably the best performance easily of the night, one-way traffic, and we'll get to that. So I got to hold my tongue, but she did beat someone who isn't as good as Carla at the same time. So you got to look at it that way. I think just give all the finishes bonuses that night. I mean, my goodness, why do we even got to argue about it? But Whaley, I mean, that's why I say if Siwoo Park wins, she gets the nod for sure. Like for Saka, it's pretty close too, because what she's beat this year, I don't know. She beat Hamasaki in the rematch, right? So that happened this year. Then she beats incredible performance against Laura Fontoura, which lower level, and that fight realistically shouldn't have happened, but it was part of the tournament, all that. And then she beats Svetkivska, who was coming off the loss. So like those two, in terms of name value, kind of hurt her. But then if she takes out this Siwoo Park, who's been insane looking right now, and yes, it's a rematch, he's already beat her. So those kind of things hurt a little bit, but Siwoo Park has looked ridiculous. That's still 4 wins, and 2 of those would be amazing. The middle two, name-wise, a little tough. but that's 4. Either way, these women will have 4 wins to 2 against both DeCourcy and Whaley. But for Siwoo Park, if she wins after what was the Reina win this year, that you'd have Reina. I'm pretty sure it was this year. I might. Here, let me check on that real quick. I don't want to be wrong. But if Siwoo Park wins and beats Sakizawa, I think there's pretty much no argument to that. Here, I want to be sure about this. She's got, it would be 4-4-2, because if this is right, then definitely. Nope, that was New Year's Eve. All right, so good thing. Either way, she'll have 4 wins because she won this year against Eric Koga, kicking things off. So, all right, that's an okay name. But then Kana Sakura, incredible performance, dominant. Ayaka Hamasaki after that, very good win. And then if she can beat the champion in a rematch, Sakizawa, the number 1 in the world, like, yeah, that's a good 4-win lineup in a single year. Like, the numbers really, I think, help in that case. So I love kind of the award talk. I think let's say this, most likely, depending on how the fight ends, of course, but if Sako wins, then Whaley's probably still front runner. It's very close between those two. Very close. But if Siwoo Park wins, I think she probably steals it right away there. And James says Whaley just finished 2 former champions. That's not enough. I mean, one of those hadn't fought in 2 years and was coming off a loss, though, James. Like, the Joanna win, in terms of all these little factors, it's not the strongest case to make. And again, it's just 2 fighters, like I said, compared to the 4 from the atom weights here. The finishes obviously help, and they were great performances, all this. It kind of depends on what you value most. But I always think, obviously, if you have more wins, that's always hard to go against, especially if they're as good as, both Izawa and Park have been looking. And Sayaka, she's finished 2 of those 3. And then the Hamasaki one wasn't a finish, but my goodness, obviously a fight of the year candidate. So, yeah, I think it's a very close race this year. And Citro says thoughts on Carla being booed. Not surprised. No one has really ever liked Carla. James says in the UFC, no less. That doesn't mean anything, James. Come on. I'm surprised you threw that out there. Rain says, why is the Carla Esparza defense force trying to claim a moral victory that she did better than expected? She got steamrolled. End of story. What is this? Well, because no one was giving her a chance. I don't think it's a defense force at all whatsoever, like if fans or whatever you're claiming here. But like I pointed this out, she did better than I thought she would. Like, she didn't do good, but she did better than I think everyone expected. So I don't know if that's a moral victory at all, but it says that, hey, maybe you should have given her at least a little bit more credit, because she got practically no credit whatsoever. And this, I am not a Carla fan whatsoever. I've said this many a time. No affinity for her or anything like that, but it was dumb to think she wouldn't get a takedown at least. Like, come on, guys. I think we knew this at most, or we should have. At least a lot of people should have. Jimmy says, the UFC is going to give Fighter of the Year to Whaley. I don't really see any argument for anyone else. Well, yeah, I mean, the UFC will certainly do that. I mean, they have no options in the UFC specifically. Ghost has a note, apparently. Rain says she did not do well. She got finished and outclassed from pillar to post. I didn't say she did well. I said she did better than expected. And expectations were not very high. So, but anyway, what do we have? She didn't get a takedown. Where they tried to take her back. She got a takedown in the second round. Didn't she take her down there? Am I completely forgetting this somehow? I swear that if you were to count it, maybe it didn't last long, but I didn't have the fight metric up. Let me see if they counted it, because I don't know how I could possibly forget her getting a takedown, but I swear that she did. Yeah, see, they counted it as a takedown. I'm not crazy. I knew she took, it was the second round, right? It was right before, oh no, it was the first round at the end there. All right, well, I'm getting them rounds mixed up, but either way, she did officially score a takedown. So there you go. Where are we? They sprawled and took the back of the second round. Watch again. Yes, yeah. See, I got that mixed up. But Ghost says, so Josh Hinger was actually working with 7 other unorthodox submissions. working with 7 other submissions. Would have been cool for it to hit the Reaper guillotine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by that at all. But all right, you guys, we got to continue on with the show. Like I said, I'm hoping to get this at the hour mark, but feel free to continue taking, mentioning whatever you want to talk about. Taking the back should not count as a takedown. No, I don't think that was the moment. Like I'm gonna have to rewatch, obviously, but I feel like there was a very clear one moment of her getting the takedown. But yeah, I don't mean no, taking the back should not count as a takedown. I remember that part definitely, but yeah. So okay. Anyway, as mentioned, moving on. For now, feel free again to mention whatever you want. But other things happen on this crazy card, such as Erin Blanchfield defeating Molly McCann with no problems whatsoever. And this, again, was kind of the case of the expectations. We expected this to happen, but maybe not as insanely dominant as this happened. My goodness, I thought that, that we knew that this was a terrible, terrible matchup for Molly McCann. Didn't really give her much of a chance. At least I didn't. But my goodness, I didn't think it would be like this. Erin Blanchfield goes out there and does perfectly exactly what she needed to do. You guys know I've been saying she's the best prospect in the game since she got into MMA now. Obviously, that Bo Nickel guy is pretty good. I said last week he's probably taking that over, but she is still right up there. And she might not even be a prospect anymore because of where she's at. And in the UFC, 4 wins now and climbing that ladder. So she is very solidly a contender now. She is no longer a prospect, I would say, despite still being just 23. Erin Blanchfield is phenomenal. I mean, just completely dominant. That crucifix, there was no hope for Molly, even when she got her arm out. At one brief moment, still was stuck there. I think the reddest I've seen anyone's face ever get from being pummeled. That was crazy. And that Kimura was pretty nasty, as you can see there from the image. Erin is only getting better and better, and that's not surprising at 23. Very, very good. But again, it's one of those cases where it doesn't tell us a whole lot at the same time. Like I got to go in both directions because Molly has obviously had these grappling issues in the UFC. So this still, like, it might not have been her best win in terms of opponent. Like I argued, I think the Maverick one could still be better because I think Maverick could probably beat Molly too with her ground game. But in terms of name and the notoriety and the views that this gives Erin, obviously huge. Her biggest fight from that perspective, her biggest win from that perspective. But great stuff. And she's not trying to rush, which I love that too. Wants Andrea Lee. Why not? That works for me. Number 9. And she even predicted this time next year, she'll be fighting in the top 5. So she's not even like calling for the title, which I kind of like it. It's very refreshing. You don't want to see, I mean, fast tracks, they can work sometimes, as we saw in the main event. A little bit different case with Alex Pereira, who has a lot of kickboxing experience. But Erin Blanchfield, a black belt already, all these things. Very talented. Love watching her fight. She's one of my favorites. Keeps on keeping on. I mean, there's not much to say about this. It was one-way traffic. Molly had no hope once she was taken down. And that's just kind of what we expected there, but just didn't think it would look the way that it did. Look the way that it did. As Ghost is explaining, the Reaper guillotine says it's a combo of a gully choke and a rear and a neck crank from back mount. How cool would that have been? Yeah, that definitely would have been cool. But I think in those kind of moments, you take what you can get. As James, as I mentioned this to Dan Tom, why not give Carla the rematch? Where they got the rematch, and it would be a nice padding of the record. That's 100% not happening, James. Like, sure, she can say that. I mean, we can say that if she wanted to do that, she can do that, of course. But there is no chance the UFC gives Carla, who didn't defend the title again and got finished again, second round in both fights. There's no way that they're making that happen. Even though obviously things are a little bit strange or kind of weird at strawweight now, shaken up a little bit in terms of the contender. Yeah, there's no way an instant rematch is happening. It's not happening. I don't think anyone would even care to see that anyway. I don't know if many people cared to see this one anyway because they knew what was going to happen, but I think why not try and do Lemos versus Whaley in Brazil in UFC 283? Why the hell not? I mean, I don't think either have taken a serious amount of damage, but let's just do that title fight in the meanwhile while everything else gets sorted out. Keep things rolling. I don't know. Again, it's kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but with Andrade being out of the picture right now, which I will drop a little something there later, but yeah, I think, why not just make that happen as quickly as possible? And Go says, instead of manipulative BS, can we call this for Aaron predatory matchmaking? I think that's fair because it's not manipulative. Well, manipulative, like it's fine. It was fine rankings wise, and kind of slow build wise, like position wise in the division. I think it was fine, but predatory, I think that's yeah, matchup wise, that's for sure. And Jimmy says, what is wrong with calling for a title shot? Nothing. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's probably what I mean, depending on how realistic it is, it's probably what you should do. But for Erin, I mean, she's being very self-aware here and realistic, which I like to see that, and not trying to rush things because, I mean, she knows that she's going to be there anyways, kind of her thought process. But after that win, it would have been maybe smarter, at least gotten some interesting interest from people in her even more because of how many views were on the fight. But yeah, I mean, the thing is just like when she's still that young and still this good, like if you can, there's no need to rush kind of thing because we know that they'll most likely get there anyway. But yeah. James says, well, Carla did have a 6-fight win streak to help her argument. That I don't think that's gonna work. I mean, it took her. She had to what? Remember she had to go beat Yan Jianan before even getting the title shot when she probably should have. And Jimmy says for Aaron, yeah, I got you there, pal. Go says, why not Lemos versus Whaley in Brazil? That's what I'm saying. Well, because Whaley won't be back in training till February, so that's not happening. All right, so well, don't put that out there, Ghost. Then people are gonna say, oh, she's ducking and she's scared, right? Like, come on, right? You gotta be careful with that. But yeah. Well, I mean, I guess she's been training all year, so good to have a break, but that stalls things. I don't like that. That's a little bit of a bummer. But again, it's kind of in a weird spot right now, so I guess it's fine. But we won't see Whaley for a little bit, huh? She said that in BT Sports. Well, I did not see that in like an interview, or what was it? Jen says Johnny Eblin was saying that Whaley was hitting the collegiate wrestling defense cutbacks. All right, there you go. Johnny would know. So congrats to Blanchfield and Whaley, of course. And to kick things off for the women, we had weirdness at the end of the fight. And apparently there was an explanation that came out today, which I have yet to see. I have yet to read this, but at strawweight earlier in the night, Karolina Kowalkiewicz defeated Silvana Gomez Juarez via unanimous decision. 29-28 across the board. But the one of the commissioner or whoever it was came in after the fight and was adjusting the scores or something up against the cage before the decision was read. Very odd scene, obviously. But as for a fight, I thought this was pretty solid fight. Unfortunately, that was the most memorable part people are remembering from it. But we saw D1 Karolina come alive in the first round again, utilizing her grappling, which has clearly improved. But at the same time, how much can you take away from it when Silvana has had some very clear grappling issues in the UFC, but got taken down twice, as you can see from the stats here. And then was in some trouble with Karolina on her back, but she didn't go back to it at all after that, which she probably should have, even though she still won. I don't know. I'm very curious to hear how you guys feel about this because I thought that Silvana, I scored it for her. I thought she should have won. I thought she had 2 and 3 close rounds. I think the third people would argue was the closest one. At least it seemed from what I was seeing, kind of the decider here, but she even outstruck her 45-39 lots there, got outstruck in the second, but they were both close, 31-27. I just felt like Silvana was slightly landing more effectively. I mean, really, that was kind of the case. And obviously the positioning, getting backed up and whatnot, who was coming forward. It felt like pretty even, but I don't know. It just seemed like she was connecting a bit more clean, and she was throwing more, at least in the third round. Well, both rounds, all rounds except for the first, where she really couldn't do that. So more activity from her, which that doesn't matter unless you connect, right? But just pointing it out that that's how the flow of the fight was kind of going. But yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at this. Not a robbery by any means, but yeah. As Ghost says, BT Sport was an interview. Rue says she's a champion, should choose where, or does that only apply to Carla Esparza? No, it doesn't. So they can't call the shots right. Never said that. Never said that at all. I'm saying I think that would be fine. That would be cool. And Rue says, why should she fight in Brazil? Didn't say she should. I'm just saying that card would be fine, or because it makes sense when the UFC wants. If you want to do a title fight with another Brazilian on that card when they only have one. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Nunes and Aldana, or Nunes in general, but she could also be an option there. I mean, depending on timing. It's weird. I don't even know how I feel fully with Lemos, like I said. But Ghost says, can we talk about the weirdness after the fight where the dude was changing the scorecard? Yeah, that was very weird. And James is all right. Carolina 2-3 easy. All right. James is 1-3. Oh, wait, 1-3 easy. And plus happy this weekend since the UFC was trying to get Carolina knocked out. Yeah, I mean, that is true. She got lucky there. I think Silvana, after the first round getting taken down, she was a little bit more worried or cautious of that anyways. But Ghost says, so can anyone just walk in the cage, take the scorecards, and write on it? Seems like an oversight. Yeah, no, that was all kinds of, yeah, I don't know. Rain says Carolina won clearly. Apparently, like I said, they gave an explanation this morning or something. I think over on MMA Junkie got it from what I think I saw. I didn't get to read it though, so I don't know. But that was, yeah. I mean, geez, I have no idea. I really don't know. But just imagine seeing that and be like, oh shit. Well, whoever loses is gonna feel like, what, did they change me from winning or losing? I mean, you shouldn't be able to. You're not allowed to affect or do anything to the scores after the round. Like once you put it in, it's in. So Jen says, I've ever seen anything like that. No. Specifically like that, no. Like outside of the cage, I've seen things clearly from some, wackiness, but never when they come in. Like they must have been in like Bruce's hand. I don't remember seeing like a handoff or anything, but I know Bruce was over there. And this guy comes in, is like, hold on. Like, I don't know. Very weird. Very, very weird. And New York, New York, I guess is what that boils down to. So ridiculous. Very ridiculous. But congrats to Carolina. 2 in a row now. My goodness. She gets submitted by Jessica Penne, and she's like, never again. So crazy. Crazy how the sport can turn around like that. And Jimmy says, I know Pat Auger. Of course I do. I mean, we've done plenty of streams together. He's actually messaging me this morning. Pat's my guy. Pat is my guy. So, yes, of course. I mean, well, you've been in some of the live streams before, Jimmy. But anyway, that was the great UFC 281 card that we witnessed this past weekend. My goodness. Card of the year. I think it is right now, probably. I'd have to go back and look at all of them before I firmly say that, but 281 was damn good. But UFC Austin was also crazy. Some of those fight nights getting back into getting out of the Apex, I should say, were crazy. As Jimmy says, let's call out Pat since I love to call out Pat. We always give each other shit anyway. So he says, well, he tweeted that Rose is better than these two women and Whaley is not the true champion until she beats Rose. Your take on that? I mean, that is entirely MMA math based, right? And I understand what he's saying because it is weird, right? Like how it was all because of Carla. Like, let's assume that if Carla didn't exist, then Whaley wouldn't be champion right now, unless they did a trilogy or something, right? Like, so it's entirely MMA mathematical thinking. But I think that that's not a wrong or right take, because obviously a lot of us feel that a lot of people feel 52%, I think, on MMA decisions I was looking at the other day, 52% still think Whaley won the rematch. But yeah, on the record, obviously it's 2 losses, so that makes it weird. I don't know, is there a similar case to this, like when kind of when Holly was champion, or when Misha was champion, it kind of, people were like, "Oh, well, Ronda can just come in and beat her again," that kind of thing. So it's weird. It's very MMA mathy. And Jimmy says Whaley has the belt and it took it from the girl that beat Rose, so he should just cry about it. Well, again, I mean, we know that wasn't much of a fight, and everyone was going for Rose for Scarlett. That is not true, Jimmy. Do not put that out there. No one want. Two. Never mind. I thought you said 3. No one wanted the trilogy. People want to see the rematch. Yes, that's for sure. But no, nobody was calling for the trilogy. Do not put that out there. James says, no, this is like DC being champion 205. There you go. That's a good comparison. That's the best comparison you could definitely do. Yeah, that's perfect, James. Thank you. Thank you for that. You just won the show today. That's the winner. That is completely spot on. Yep. Perfect. I don't think I need to say anything else. You nailed it there. Nailed it there, James. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. That was a good stuff. I'm surprised I didn't think of that. Probably because I don't count the second Jones win since he cheated. But that's just where my mind goes. So anyway, Deep 110 Impact happened this weekend as well. So just the one fight for the title at microweight, as Sarah Oshima defends her title against one of her 2 titles against Mizuki Furuse, unsurprisingly, and scores a first round submission scarf hold arm lock at 124. I love me that position and that submission. So I'm not at all surprised that Oshima won in this speed of 74 seconds or 84 seconds, excuse me. Speaking of math, my goodness. Yeah. Didn't get to see this fight just yet, of course, as it's always a little bit tricky watching Deep live. At least I haven't pursued trying to do it too hard, to be honest, but they always get put up on YouTube after the fact. So we'll watch that as soon as I can. Obviously, it won't take very long to watch it, but Sarah Oshima, she was just a superior fighter going into this one. And it was really, I mean, if you were to have odds for a matchup, I'm sure that these would have been insane if they did have them, or at least they should have been, because, yeah, Sarah Oshima is just one of the best in the world right now. And a scarf hold armbar, those are always very fun. So, yeah. We'll just breeze through that, since again, I don't want to talk too much about something I did not get to see, but I'm excited to watch it. I love those kind of, I just love Oshima fights in general, and then that submission is a great one. As Barton says, can Zhang beat Nunes in the trilogy, or does Zhang need more title defense to justify a rematch with Namajunas? That's a very weird way to phrase that, because obviously, you know, she's the champ now, but can she beat her in a trilogy? Absolutely. Does she need more title defenses to justify a rematch? No, like, see, that doesn't really make sense, because again, she's the champion, so it's on Rose to have to. I mean, I think Rose has to do less work now. She has to do far less work to get back to the title, which that's kind of annoying, because it is very possible, you guys, and I don't want this to happen at all, because I don't think it makes sense right now, but we could see Rose and Whaley next. That could be a trilogy they put together next, which it's like, oh my God, you're killing me with the lack of freshness. If that happens, she's coming off a loss. I think Rose, she wins one fight. Let's say she fights Zhang on next, which I think that's probably the one to go with. Or you could do Lemos, any combination of those 3, right? Depending on what they want to do with Whaley next, or Whaley takes a break. Have somebody fight in February, January, between these 3, and then they can go from there and fight Whaley. How about that? But yeah, I think now if Carla would have stayed champion, Rose would have needed like 2 wins at least, but she's going to need, I think, just one one at least now for sure. But obviously UFC loves putting her in title fights. So yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just gave it to her because we've seen that happen. Edward says, well, Max Holloway had to build himself up to fight Volk again, even down 0-2. Yes, very true. But what he only needed 2 or 3 wins, right? It wasn't even that crazy for that. And so like the best case would be Benavidez versus Johnson, like having to really solidify that. But yeah. Jimmy says, doesn't Whaley fight in the summer anyways? Like she always fought in May or June in the past. I mean, the Danielle Taylor fight was in the summer, and her debut was the Tisha fight in the summer. I mean, it seems pretty mixed. And I guess also the Andrade fight was in the summer. I guess she typically does do that. She's kind of got a pattern of her fights, doesn't she? But all right, we're at the 40 mark. We got to get rolling. We got to get moving here. As the news, real quick, this isn't real news, but we mentioned it earlier at super atomweight. Seka Izawa versus Siwoo Park 2 for the Grand Prix finals is officially been announced for Rise at 40 on New Year's Eve. We knew this was going to happen already, so like this isn't real news. Like I was saying, just it's been officially announced. We knew it was going to happen. As long as everybody was healthy and all that. But incredible rematch, 2 incredible fighters, the best in the world in the division now at the moment. The champ versus the challenger who she defeated right before going to Ryzen. And she's only gotten that much better. They've both gotten so much better since that fight last year, which is crazy. In such a short amount of time, how great that they've gotten. But I cannot wait for that one. We will talk about it even more and more as it gets closer. But yes, just an official announcement there. So nothing too much to go into. Tournament. What do you expect? So that's going to be awesome. But that's our only bit of news for today. So had to get it out of the way. As Barton says, so shouldn't Zhang have to get a 2-fight win streak to get to fight Namunis in that case? No, she's the champion now. She's the champion, Barton. That's where it gets. That's what makes it weird. Like if they were both non-champs, then for that to make sense, maybe have them fight, their fights, and then it lines up. But I just think no matter how you cut it right now, it doesn't make sense really. But the UFC could justify it again because of Whaley having won twice since then, and then Rose having 2 wins over her. That's how they could justify it, but I don't see it, in my opinion. So, yeah. But we have Invicta 50 going down this week. So let's take a look at this card, which is very interesting, and I am assuming... we're pulling up Wikipedia here today because on Tapology, they don't have the straw weights listed. And that's because the weigh-ins are today, and they could be going on right now even. I'm not sure. But the weigh-ins between the straw weights, who one-night tournament, as you can see, these 2 straw weight fights here, semifinals, winners fight in the finals for the title. But we don't know who's fighting who yet. So... I'm assuming clearly that what they did this with the Phoenix tournament too. So this is obviously what's happening with the Phoenix tournaments. But they'll weigh in and then they will do the random draw or whatever, and we will know the matchups the day before the fights. So we do know who is fighting though. Gloria DePaula, Valeska Machado, Carolina Vojcik, and Ediana Silva are your 4 strawweight competitors. Mix and match them however you want. So you can't really preview this tournament happening tomorrow until you know the matchups. But you can look at the fighters specifically, starting with Gloria DePaula, who's obviously coming off the UFC run, which didn't quite go her way. Got to the promotion through the Contender Series. Pauline Macias victory, then lost to Jinyu Fry, Cheyenne Vlismas, of course, Maria Oliveira in the last fight, which was very fun, competitive one, but she dropped the Oliveira split decision. Had the win over Diana Belbita, which I think she lost as well, so could have been 4-0, 0-4, excuse me, complete opposite of that. But Yeah, the grappling cost her in the gym fights. Terrible, terrible lack of fight IQ cost her against Cheyenne. And then, put up a scrappy performance against Maria Oliveira. Very back and forth on the feet. Looked pretty good there. Didn't have to deal with too much of the ground. And same thing with the Belbita one. So I think we've seen, obviously, that the kind of Muay Thai and striking wars is what Gloria likes to get into. But you put her up against a grappler, and she's going to struggle a bit. So in this case, we're going to have some good competitive matchups no matter who she faces. Ideally, she would like to fight Valeska Machado, who Tina Black used to. I don't know if she still does, but she worked with Verna Jandiroba a good bit before getting to the UFC, or like right around when she entered the UFC. Machado was helping her a lot with her Muay Thai, and we saw obviously the improvements from Verna because of that. So Valeska, good training partner for her to have, and got a great win over Liz Tracy her last time out. You don't see that very often, and she's been working on her grappling too. Obviously, she was in Submission Circus earlier this year down in Brazil, and has a rear naked choke before that. So she's rounded things out. But Valeska, a very talented Muay Thai striker as well. So that would be a good matchup. We'll see what happens, but we know that those two are probably going to want to avoid the ground for the most part. Whereas Karolina Vodcik, pretty well-rounded fighter as well. Didn't get the contract. Her victory on Contender Series this last summer. Has good wins in KSW over Alexandra Rola and Sylvia Zhuskovic. Leaned on her grappling and wrestling a good bit in kind of all those last three fights. So she's kind of got that in the back pocket. She can hang, box pretty decently, but probably one of the more well-rounded ones. I mean, if you're looking at these four, between her and Ediana Silva, who I really have not seen any of Silva. She's just 20 years old, but already 12-2. Been fighting mostly on the Brazilian regional scene, of course, but just fought in LFA in Brazil. I think it was in Brazil, right? LFA gone to Brazil here? Maybe not. Either way, it was for LFA, so a big show for her in terms of everything else. But she's been a finisher throughout her career. Lots of mixed bag of knockouts with punches, and then some submissions here, an arm triangle, 2 arm triangles, an armbar. So yeah, she's kind of, at least on paper, able to mix it up pretty well. We'll see how that goes. And just 20, so lots to like there from the tournament. Going to be fun and interesting to see how it plays out, especially the randomness. That always makes it a lot more interesting. And in this case, I'm pretty sure that these semifinal bouts are 2 rounds. Each 2 rounds. I'm not sure. They kind of confused it, not, being Phoenix style, obviously, but then the winner will have to go on and fight again. So in these kind of cases, the grapplers are always favored a bit. So we'll see how DePaula and Valeska end up doing. But also on the card, we have the alternates, Pone and Odessa, and then McCormick versus Mayra Mazar. And then some bantamweight fights as well. Katharina Leonard versus Talita Bernardo should be decent. It'd be decent. Bernardo's kind of, excuse me. I mean, I guess that kind of answers how I feel about Bernardo. Great timing there with the yawn. But Katharina Leonard generally brings it. She's in some pretty fun fights for the most part. And Claire Guthrie before that, very strong wrestler, will probably try and go and do her thing against Bridget Chase. But that is Invicta 50, the big 50th show. Kind of crazy that we've reached this point, and we will have a new strawweight champion. And honestly, though, you guys, it's kind of it's very telling. It's very much a bummer, if we're going to be totally honest, to see this current landscape of what Invicta has devolved into a little bit, because all the high quality names have kind of disappeared from Invicta. Like, they're very much, I don't want to say the feeder word, but just rebuilding a little bit in some of these, like when these 4 women, DePaula, Machado, and Vodcik, and Silva, and you look at the history of some of the other champions that they've had, it just feels out of place. Like, these fighters aren't quite there yet, and probably would not be inserted in a title fight if it wasn't for a tournament style. So I don't know. Like, the atomweight fights, the last so many events have been like the biggest name fights that they've had in a good while. So just kind of how you look at it. Bruce says, do I think the crowd got to Esparza? No, I do not. Ghost mentioned Josh Hinger, and Whaley mentioned that he was the best jiu-jitsu coach in the world. Would you ever interview him? Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? And we had a 4-1 MMA record that ended in 2007. Okay, all right, so long while back. Hold on, give me a sec here, Jen. I'm trying to time management again a little bit, and if you're going after people I work with, like that's not something that it's just that needs to even be acknowledged. Robert Whitaker Sparks to say Robert Whitaker beat Pereira. Would that be a similar situation as Barton mentioned, where the champion has 2 lost status? Yes, that is a good example too, if that would have happened. But it says, what do you call that style of grappling that Whaley was using? It seems different from her previous fights, or is it just grappling? Or goes for free type. I mean, grappling overall is just everything. Like you say when you say striking, it's not one specific thing; it's all of it, right? So grappling is everything, but the style of grappling that Whaley was using. I mean, she was just defensive wrestling, really. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I think it was just because of the way she was getting shot in on by Carla. It maybe looked a little bit different, but just seemed like some defensive wrestling to me. I'll go back and rewatch though, as I have no problems doing that. So this goes as ADCC style, give up the position to get us up. Well, there's also that, yeah, willing to maybe put yourself in a risky spot, perhaps, to get to a better one. So yeah, and I mean, it's also having that comfort. Working with somebody like Josh Hinger will help with that. So, all right, let's breeze through UFC Vegas 65 as best as we can, while still hitting kind of the high notes here. And we're kicking things off, though, you guys, with, my goodness, one of my new favorite fighters since she debuted. It's the return of Natty Silva. And I'll tell you every time, if you haven't, go and watch this woman's debut. She looked absolutely sensational. One of the best UFC debuts you'll ever see. One of the best performances. Natalia Silva defeating Jasmine Jasudavicius a couple months ago. Let's see exactly when that was. When was that now? 4 months ago now. Natty Silva's back, and she's taking on Teresa Bleda, who is 6-0, and when she got in off the Contender Series a month ago, two months ago. Well, no, it's a month ago and 5 days. I can't read. Decisioning Naira Maya, and my goodness, I still don't know how Silva did not finish Jasmine in that fight. That was ridiculousness, but she's the -185 favorite, rightfully so. Seems like a solid number, I would say. Teresa Blade is still just 20 years old, so UFC is really getting into that territory of just letting in all the youngsters, aren't they? They really are. But we have quite a big size difference here. Length advantages for Bleda. 5'9" to 5'4". My goodness, 71-inch to 65. So that is heavily in her favor. But I feel like Silva was also at a length disadvantage against Jasmine. Didn't really matter whatsoever. She moves very well, kicks very well, fights from distance, but then can come in and hurt you. I mean, she just looked so goddamn good in that everywhere. A really perfect performance from her in the debut. So Bleda is going to have her work cut out for her, and a very funny nicknamed Rhonda. I believe that is because of some kind of Ronda Rousey fandom or what have you. But yeah, if Natalia Silva continues to build off that first performance, I'm going to struggle to pick against her. I think that in that type of matchup, or after going off of that last matchup, we're going to need to see some, like a really strong wrestler looks like it could potentially be her kryptonite. We will need to see her against somebody like that. I don't think Bleda will be, the one to do that. But that was kind of the thing that surprised so many people because in Jungle Fight, obviously, and just her career before that, she's been submitting mostly everybody on the ground. So that's like, she made that look like her back pocket, arsenal in the debut, because she struck the shit out of Jasmine, just beat her up on the feet everywhere, really. And so she has just evolved tremendously So, I mean, even the wrestling might not be a problem if someone comes at her that way. She'll submit you too. We shall see. But we shall see. Yeah. Can't wait for it. Love Natalia Silva. And I forgot to put the thing on the bottom. But okay, Jen, rewording real quick says, does Carla Esparza deserve to be booed and disrespected? No, I mean, I don't think for the most part, nobody does, unless they're like an objectively awful, terrible human who's done very heinous criminal acts against humanity, right? No one deserves to be booed and disrespected necessarily, right? Unless they're, again, an objectively awful human. Even though Whaley was booed and disrespected 261, like I don't think you can compare the two cases, right? Like, it is people will pick who they want to support for whatever reasons. But there's always a thing where people are weird about Americans getting booed in America. I've seen that happen. James says Natalia Silva was on the Austin card. I can't remember her performance. Oh man, you got to go back and watch it then, please. If you have not, if no one has seen, if you guys missed her, I don't know which card that was on. What does it say here? It doesn't say specifically, but that one, does it say? Oh, I forgot we should start looking at these because it's kind of fun. But yeah, Natalia Silva. I love that was one of my favorite performances in a long time. I don't remember specifically which card, but yeah, it's good. I got all thrown off track there. But anyway, moving on. Can't wait for that. We spoke of Maria Oliveira a little bit there earlier as she did fight, who was it? Gloria DePaula. Well, now she's taking on everybody's favorite former stripper, Vanessa Demopoulos, and the happiest human on the face of the planet. Well, Little Monstro. What is her nickname? Just Little Monster. I think one of her social media handles is something kind of silly like that. But yeah, very quiet build to this Vanessa Demopoulos fight. Kind of really snuck up on us as she takes on Spider Girl. And what is this? Where did the grease come from? Was she born there and I had no idea about this? Or is this a glitch in the Tapology Matrix? But -2, 120, near even to the +100 for Vanessa. Yeah, this is incredibly close. Incredibly close odds. Pick them essentially. Big reach advantages for Maria Oliveira, unsurprisingly, 5'6" to 5'2", 69 to 62. Is this the theme? It's going to be the theme, at least in these first two fights, is the length discrepancy. I think Maria Oliveira is definitely the better of the two strikers. Vanessa Demopoulos, incredibly, incredibly tough and durable, as we've seen throughout her career. She's improving on the feet, but she's very good and dangerous with her submission game, as we know. Highlighted by that, Silvana armbar after she got dropped. And then, had the split over Jin her last time out. Marie's just very fast, puts her combination together very well. I think it'll be very clear that Vanessa is going to want to get this to the ground. And it's just a matter of if she will be able to do that, whether it's on her back or on top of Oliveira. That's where she's going to have her best success. And I think she will probably try to, especially after she maybe gets a little bit overwhelmed early on by the speed and combinations of Maria. But would you look at that? Most people are believing in her. 68% of the fan votes. 993. So many people on Tapology, right? 68% are leaning towards Demopoulos to do that by decision specifically, but we got 21 by submission. So there you go. That seems about fair to me. Obviously, I think if someone's going to get a finish, it'll probably be her, even though I wouldn't be like crazy surprised if I would. Vanessa's very tough. I was going to say if Maria managed to put her away with strikes just after accumulation, but yeah, that might be a tough ask for sure. Because Vanessa, my goodness, that loopy fight, that's the one you always highlight where she took some serious damage. All right, Jen, I don't think anyone's asking to do that. Not that I've seen. Please specifically share some evidence before you about anybody. It's not just about, people I work with, but let's just not label things that on anyone where they might not be true. Sammy says, what is Vanessa's path to victory here? Just upper right. I mean, yeah, that's her definitely best path. Yes. And I don't think that's the case necessarily, Jen. I mean, obviously that maybe plays a factor, but when has anyone ever liked Carla? That's the thing. Like she's much less likable, I think, objectively in all ways. People will agree than Whaley. So that was always going to happen. If you put Carla against anybody in this fight, she probably is getting booed. I don't know. I don't even know why it's a big thing to throw out here. I feel like we repeat a lot of the same concerns on the show. We got to try and do that less. Waste of energy and lack of positivity. Trying to be positive here as we get ready for the final fight that we'll be talking about. Jennifer Maia versus Marina Moroz. This one is a big one for both ladies. Obviously for Jennifer Maia to maybe stay in the UFC. She's fighting Marina, who is, I don't know if Marina's ranked right now, but Jennifer Maia has just fallen. She has fallen at 34 years old. And yes, 2K in rematch. And then Furo, like, no slouches there, two of the best in the division, but now they're throwing her to a dangerous, continually improving Marina Moroz, who is much further down on the totem pole and streaking right now with the 3-fight winning streak. Just needs to get more active. That's really been her biggest thing. Obviously, 3 years, 2 years, 7 months. Doesn't fight very often, but she has looked great at flyweight, and she can come in, springboard, potentially knock Jennifer Maia clearly out of the rankings, but maybe out of the promotion, which what a fall from grace in a way it would be. And the odds makers have Maia the underdog at this point, and I might have to agree, which is crazy, and I never thought I would. But 5'4" to 5'7", again, yeah, decent discrepancy in the length here. Not crazy, but this could also be Jennifer Maia's reminder fight, where she comes out there and she's like, all right, y'all must have forgot who I am, what I've been able to do. But Marina Moroz, again, really leaned on her improved wrestling and in the last fight against Maria Agapova, so fought very smartly there. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Oh, very tired today. So, yeah. I think for Jennifer Maia, she's obviously always dangerous off the bottom, but Marina Moroz, if she mixes this up and kind of makes her think everywhere the fight goes, fights a distance, utilize the range as best as she can. Keep Maia away from getting her in the clinch and, doing her kind of Muay Thai damage that she can do and has been known to do in her prime. Then I think Moroz has a good chance of pulling this off, and obviously a lot of people do. But I mean, that's kind of proven to be a good way to beat her in the last two fights, as well as, utilize your movement and keep away distance striking a little bit while he's still trying to mix it up, which I think Moroz probably will do. But yeah, for Maia, clinch would be a great spot to be in. It always is. So yeah. James says Jennifer Maia showed that you can put Valentina on her back. That is true. Same with Santos. So if someone with clever takedowns can take Valentina down, Valentina will just stay in guard. Do you think she laid the blueprint to beat Valentina? That's a good question. I think so. I think it's hard to say, because it hasn't worked yet, right? It hasn't led to a loss, but it's clearly something that's reoccurred now. So I think I'd say yes and no to that, James. I think it's leaning in that direction potentially. We'll see how her next fight looks, but that's a good thing to highlight. Rain says, can Marina get a title shot even off a loss? I'm assuming you mean Rodriguez. I'm gonna assume that won't happen. No, and I wouldn't want it to either. Jimmy says, do you know about Full Send from UFC? They gave Whaley a box of pizza that she ate in 6 bites. What? A box of she ate an entire pizza in 6? That's I'm going to assume that's hyperbole, but yeah, I know Full Send and not a big fan of those guys, but that's very funny sounding. Ghost says that is a good point. Valentina never wall walks and does not adjust to her opponents. So there you go. Ghost liking the highlight from James. Good stuff. But yeah, Jennifer Maya is definitely capable of doing that. She can do that too. Morose too. Like, I think it's just a matter of which Jennifer Maya shows up in this one. And so I'm very intrigued by this fight. And it is a big fight for both of them in different reasons. Jennifer trying to maintain her spot and place in the not just the division, but the promotion, while Morose tries to climb and really solidify her as a true contender at 125, which she has all the makings of being. She just needs to get more active. Okay, I thought so. She didn't eat the box. She ate the pizza, not the box. All right. That would be a woman's hungry if she ate the cardboard. My goodness. But all right, you guys. That is that. UFC Vegas 65 coming up this weekend. Interesting card. These fight nights, they're kind of all over the place these days, as you are well aware. But I like the fights that we just mentioned. I think they have a lot of intrigue to them in different ways. I'm most excited for Natalia Silva. I really am. I cannot get over that performance she put on in her debut. I'm looking very much forward to her fighting all the time. But then that flyweight one we also just talked about will be good. So, all right, you guys. On that note, like I said, we'll be in Chicago later today. I'm not so excited because it's going to be very cold and the Bears around me. As a Packers fan, I'm going to antagonize some people with all my Packers gear. But yeah, we'll be covering Bellator 288 at the end of the week. And then what is coming up in terms of interviews and shameless plugs and whatnot, Rotten Horizon episode 21 is still being worked on, but I did speak to Jessica Andrade yesterday, so you can look for that here on WMMAnia.com soon. Not exactly sure. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. We'll try to be getting that out as quickly as possible. Good chat with Jessica. Some interesting thoughts and comments about a lot of things from Miss Andrade, but always good getting to catch up with her. And it's also Christian Lee fight week. One championship is going down this week, right? And as mentioned last week, I spoke to Christian Lee ahead of his attempt to become a double champion. So you can catch that here on the website and the channel as well. So all that stuff going on. But Makoto closes us out here saying, why not just do a UFC pay-per-view once a month with no fight nights? I mean, they do once a month, but with no fight nights. Then the roster's too big, Makoto. That's why. Barton says, Drake, a large Packer, as in do you overpack a lot? Not Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers is what I meant, but do I overpack? No, I try to pack as lightly as possible. Like usually what I do is just one outfit for that day is kind of what I try to do. I don't like to be overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. So that's usually how I do it. It takes me long enough to put it all together anyway. But yeah, there you go. Appreciate the thought. So, okay, you guys, we'll leave it off there. Appreciate you so much. Remember, you can follow me at Drake__ on Twitter and Instagram. Follow MMA Mania on everything that you possibly can. Hit the like button. Helps us so much. At the very least, if you aren't going to follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that stuff. Until next time, I will see you guys next week. Take care.